CEO learns boy's age, realizes he's the father from their past encounter. What happens next? Hi romance lovers, welcome back to Love Scene Diaries, the channel where we bring you the most captivating love stories filled with passion, heartbreak, and redemption. Today's story is one you won't want to miss, a tale of unexpected connections, life-changing revelations, and the power of second chances. So grab a cozy spot and stay tuned until the very end, because this one will tug at your heartstrings. Ethan Blackwood was the kind of man who turned heads wherever he went. As the CEO of Blackwood Enterprises, he was a commanding presence, tall, impeccably dressed, and exuding an air of confidence that made people both admire and fear him. Tonight, he was at a lavish charity gala, surrounded by the glittering elite of the city. The room sparkled with crystal chandeliers, the hum of polite conversation, and the clinking of champagne glasses. But while everyone else seemed to revel in the glamour, Ethan felt detached, as he always did at these events. He was a man who had everything, wealth, power, and influence, but deep down he carried a loneliness he couldn't shake. His life was a carefully curated image of success, but behind the polished exterior was a man who had long since given up on love. As he stood by the bar, nursing a glass of whiskey, his eyes scanned the room. That's when he saw her. She wasn't like the other women at the gala, draped in designer gowns and dripping with jewels. She was elegant but understated, her beauty natural and effortless. There was something about her that drew him in. A quiet confidence, a spark of life that seemed to light up the room. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the noise of the gala faded into the background. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring them together. Ethan, uncharacteristically bold, approached her. They talked, laughed, and shared stories as if they'd known each other forever. The connection was instant, electric, and undeniable. But just as quickly as it began, it ended. They spent one unforgettable night together, but when Ethan woke up the next morning, she was gone. No note, no phone number, not even a last name. She had vanished as mysteriously as she had appeared, leaving Ethan with nothing but the memory of her and the lingering question, who was she? Have you ever met someone who changed your life in just one night? 3 years later, Ethan's life hadn't changed much. He was still the powerful, enigmatic CEO, still admired and envied by many. But his heart remained as guarded as ever. He had buried himself in work, convincing himself that love was a distraction he couldn't afford. On a rare day off, Ethan found himself at a park, a place he hadn't visited in years. The sun was shining, children were laughing, and for once he felt a strange sense of peace. As he strolled along the path, his attention was drawn to a little boy playing with a toy airplane. The boy was about 3 years old, with dark hair that curled at the edges and a mischievous smile that lit up his face. Ethan couldn't help but smile as he watched the boy run around, his laughter infectious. But then something strange happened. The more Ethan looked at the boy, the more he felt a sense of familiarity. There was something about the boy's mannerisms, the way he tilted his head when he was curious, the way his eyes sparkled with mischief, that struck a chord deep within Ethan. Before he could stop himself, Ethan approached the boy, crouching down to his level. "Hey there, buddy," he said with a warm smile. "What's your name?" "Liam," the boy replied, his voice bright and cheerful. "Liam," Ethan repeated, the name rolling off his tongue. "That's a strong name. How old are you, Liam?" "I'm 3, Liam said proudly, holding up 3 fingers. Ethan chuckled, but his mind was racing. 3 years old, the timeline sent a shiver down his spine, though he couldn't quite place why. "Liam, don't wander off too far," a woman's voice called out. Ethan looked up and froze. Standing a few feet away was a woman he hadn't seen in 3 years but had never been able to forget. It was her, the woman from the gala, the one who had disappeared without a trace. Sophia. She looked different now, more mature, with a quiet strength in her eyes. But there was no mistaking her. She was the same woman who had turned his world upside down that night. And now, here she was, standing in front of him, holding the hand of a boy who looked just like him. Sophia's eyes widened as she recognized Ethan. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. "Ethan," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Sophia, he replied, his voice laced with disbelief. The tension between them was palpable, a mix of shock, confusion, and something else, something neither of them could quite name. Ethan's mind was racing with questions. Was Liam his son? Why hadn't Sophia told him? And why did seeing her again make his heart ache in a way he hadn't felt in years? What would you do if you met someone who reminded you of a past you thought you'd left behind? Ethan Blackwood couldn't shake the image of Sophia and Liam from his mind. The boy's resemblance to him was undeniable, and the timeline gnawed at his thoughts like an unsolved puzzle. He needed answers, and he needed them now. So, he did what he always did when faced with uncertainty. He took control. The next morning, Sophia received an unexpected call. Ethan's assistant, in her usual professional tone, invited her to Blackwood Enterprises to discuss a potential design project. Sophia hesitated. She knew this wasn't just about work. The look in Ethan's eyes at the park had been too intense, too searching. But curiosity and a lingering sense of unfinished business compelled her to accept. Sophia stepped into Ethan's sleek glass-walled office, her heart pounding. The room was a reflection of the man himself, imposing, immaculate, and intimidating. Ethan stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to her, gazing out at the city skyline. "Thank you for coming," he said, turning to face her. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed a storm of emotions. Sophia nodded, clutching her bag tightly. "You said you wanted to discuss a design project?" Ethan gestured for her to sit, his expression unreadable. "Yes, but before we get to that, there's something I need to ask you." Sophia's stomach tightened. She had a feeling she knew where this was going. Ethan sat across from her, leaning forward slightly. "Liam," he began, his voice measured. "How old is he?" Sophia hesitated, her mind racing. She had always known this moment might come, but she wasn't prepared for it to happen like this. "He's 3, she said softly, her eyes avoiding his. Ethan's jaw tightened. "And his birthday?" "March 15th, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan leaned back in his chair, the weight of her words sinking in. March 15th, exactly 9 months after their one-night stand. The realization hit him like a freight train. "He's mine, isn't he?" Ethan's voice was low, almost a whisper, but there was no mistaking the intensity behind it. Sophia looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and defiance. "Yes," she admitted. "Liam is your son." The room fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the faint hum of the city outside. Ethan stood abruptly, pacing the room as he tried to process the revelation. "You kept this from me," he said, his voice sharp with accusation. "You knew I had a son, and you didn't tell me?" Sophia stood as well, her own emotions bubbling to the surface. "I didn't know how to find you, Ethan. You didn't exactly leave me your business card that night." "You could have tried," he shot back. "You could have reached out, done something. Instead, you decided I didn't deserve to know." Sophia's eyes flashed with anger. "And what would you have done if I had found you? You're a billionaire CEO, Ethan. You live in a world of power and privilege. I didn't think you'd want anything to do with us." Ethan stopped pacing, turning to face her. "You didn't think I'd want to know my own son?" Sophia's voice cracked as she replied. "I didn't want Liam to grow up feeling like he wasn't enough. I didn't want him to be a burden to you." Ethan's expression softened for a moment, but the hurt in his eyes remained. "You had no right to make that decision for me, Sophia. I missed 3 years of his life. 3 years I can never get back." Sophia's defenses crumbled, and tears welled up in her eyes. "Do you think this was easy for me, raising him on my own, wondering every day if I made the right choice? I did what I thought was best for him." Ethan sank back into his chair, running a hand through his hair. The anger in his voice gave way to something more vulnerable. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "I don't know how to be a father." Sophia sat down as well, her voice softening. "No one does, Ethan. You learn as you go. But Liam doesn't need you to be perfect. He just needs you to be there." Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and determination. "I want to be there. For him. For you." Sophia's heart ached at his words, but she couldn't ignore the fear that lingered in the back of her mind. "Ethan, your world is so different from ours." I'm scared of what this will mean for Liam, for us. Ethan reached across the table, his hand covering hers. I don't have all the answers, Sophia, but I know one thing. I'm not going to walk away from this. From him. From you. Despite Ethan's words, the tension between them remained. Sophia wasn't ready to fully trust him, and Ethan was still grappling with the reality of fatherhood. They agreed to take things one step at a time, starting with Ethan spending more time with Liam. As Sophia left his office, Ethan watched her go, a mix of hope and uncertainty in his heart. He knew this was just the beginning of a long and complicated journey, but for the first time in years he felt like he had something worth fighting for. Do you think Sophia was right to keep Liam a secret? Let us know in the comments. Ethan Blackwood had always been a man of action. Once he set his mind to something, he pursued it with relentless determination. And now, for the first time in his life, his focus wasn't on a business deal or a corporate takeover. It was on a little boy with dark curls and a mischievous smile. Liam. His son. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the 3 years he had missed. The first steps, the first words, the bedtime stories, moments he could never get back. But he was determined to make up for lost time. He wasn't sure how to be a father, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let Liam grow up without knowing him. The first time Ethan picked Liam up for an outing, he was nervous. He had faced boardrooms full of cutthroat executives without breaking a sweat. But the idea of spending a day with a 3-year-old left him feeling completely out of his depth. Liam, however, seemed unfazed. "Where are we going?" he asked, his eyes lighting up with excitement as Ethan buckled him into the car seat. "How about the zoo?" Ethan suggested, glancing at Liam in the rearview mirror. "The zoo," Liam exclaimed, clapping his hands. "I want to see the lions." At the zoo, Ethan found himself marveling at Liam's boundless energy and curiosity. The boy darted from exhibit to exhibit, peppering Ethan with questions. Why do giraffes have long necks? Do penguins get cold? Can we take a lion home? Ethan laughed, his heart swelling with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. He bought Liam a stuffed lion from the gift shop, and the boy hugged it tightly, declaring it his new best friend. Later, they sat on a bench, sharing a bag of popcorn. Liam looked up at Ethan with wide, innocent eyes. "Do you have a daddy?" he asked. The question caught Ethan off guard. He hesitated, then said, "I did, a long time ago." "Was he nice?" Liam asked, tilting his head. Ethan's throat tightened. His own father had been distant, more focused on his career than his family. "He tried," Ethan said finally, "but I want to be better." Liam nodded as if this made perfect sense. "You're nice," he said simply, before turning his attention back to the popcorn. Ethan's chest ached at the boy's words. He realized just how much he wanted to be the kind of father Liam could look up to. Sophia watched from a distance as Ethan and Liam's bond grew. She had been hesitant to let Ethan into their lives, but seeing him with Liam made her question her decision. He was patient, attentive, and genuinely interested in getting to know his son. One evening, as she tucked Liam into bed, he clutched the stuffed lion Ethan had given him. "Mommy, do you think Mr. Ethan likes me?" he asked. Sophia's heart twisted. "Of course he does, sweetheart," she said, brushing a curl from his forehead. "You like him?" Liam asked, his eyes searching hers. Sophia hesitated. "I think he's trying very hard to be a good daddy," she said carefully. As Liam drifted off to sleep, Sophia found herself thinking about Ethan. She remembered the night they had met, the way he had made her laugh, the way he had looked at her as if she were the only person in the room. She had felt an instant connection with him, a spark she hadn't felt with anyone else. But that was 3 years ago. Could she trust him now? Could she let him into their lives without risking her heart? The memories came flooding back. The gala had been a whirlwind of music, laughter, and champagne. Sophia had been there as a favor to a friend, feeling out of place among the city's elite. Then she had seen him, Ethan, with his sharp suit and piercing gaze. He had approached her with a confidence that was both intimidating and irresistible. They had talked for hours, sharing stories and secrets as if they had known each other forever. When he had kissed her, It had felt like the most natural thing in the world. But the next morning, reality had set in. Sophia had woken up alone with no way to contact him. She had told herself it was for the best, that their worlds were too different. But now, seeing him with Liam, she couldn't help but wonder what might have been. As Ethan and Sophia navigated their complicated relationship, an external threat loomed on the horizon. One of Ethan's rivals, a ruthless executive named Victor Langston, had caught wind of the situation. Victor had always envied Ethan's success and saw this as an opportunity to tarnish his reputation. He hired a private investigator to dig into Ethan's personal life, hoping to uncover something scandalous. When he discovered the existence of Liam, he knew he had struck gold. Victor leaked the story to a tabloid, framing it as a scandalous exposé, billionaire CEO's secret love child. The article painted Ethan as a heartless playboy who had abandoned his responsibilities, twisting the truth to fit a sensational narrative. The media frenzy was immediate. Paparazzi swarmed Sophia's apartment, shouting questions and snapping photos. Liam, frightened by the commotion, clung to Sophia, tears streaming down his face. Ethan was furious. He called an emergency meeting with his legal team, vowing to protect Sophia and Liam at all costs. "I don't care what it takes," he said. "I won't let them hurt my family." Despite the chaos, Sophia couldn't help but admire the way Ethan handled the situation. He was calm, decisive, and fiercely protective. He issued a public statement condemning the invasion of their privacy and declaring his commitment to his son. In private, he reassured Sophia. "I know this is overwhelming," he said, taking her hand, "but I promise you I'll do whatever it takes to keep you and Liam safe." Sophie saw a side of Ethan she hadn't seen before. A man who was willing to fight for the people he cared about. It was in those moments that she began to let her guard down, allowing herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could be a family. Should Ethan fight to protect his family, or is it too late for him to make things right? Ethan Blackwood had always prided himself on being a man of logic and reason. In the boardroom, he thrived on facts, data, and certainty. But when it came to matters of the heart, he was navigating uncharted territory. The revelation that Liam was his son had turned his world upside down, and while he was determined to be a part of the boy's life, doubts and insecurities gnawed at him. It happened during what should have been a simple conversation. Ethan had invited Sophia to his penthouse for dinner, hoping to discuss how they could co-parent Liam. The evening started off well enough. Liam was happily playing with a set of building blocks Ethan had bought for him, and Sophia seemed more relaxed than usual. But as the conversation turned to logistics, schooling, schedules, and future plans, Ethan's anxiety got the better of him. "Sophia," he began, his tone cautious, "I've been thinking, maybe we should do a paternity test, just to confirm everything." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Sophia froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Slowly she set it down, her expression shifting from surprise to hurt. "A paternity test?" she repeated, her voice trembling. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "It's not that I don't believe you," he said quickly. "It's just, with everything that's happened, I think it's important to have clarity, for Liam's sake." Sophia's eyes flashed with anger. "Clarity? You think I'm lying about Liam being your son?" "No, that's not what I'm saying," Ethan replied, his voice rising defensively. "I just think it's a reasonable step to take." Sophia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Reasonable? Do you have any idea how insulting that is? I've raised Liam on my own for 3 years, and now you're questioning me?" Ethan stood as well, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "I'm not questioning you, Sophia. I'm trying to do what's best for everyone." Sophia's voice cracked as she replied, "What's best for everyone? Or what's best for you? Because it sounds like you're trying to protect yourself, not Liam." The argument escalated, their voices echoing through the penthouse. Liam, sensing the tension, peeked around the corner, clutching his stuffed lion. "Mommy? Mr. Ethan?" he said softly, his wide eyes filled with confusion. Sophia immediately softened, kneeling down to reassure him. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said, her voice trembling. "We're just talking." But as she looked up at Ethan, her expression hardened again. "I think we're done here," she said, scooping Liam into her arms. "Sophia, wait," Ethan said. his voice laced with desperation. But she was already heading for the door. "I trusted you, Ethan," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought you were different, but I won't let you hurt Liam. Or me." And with that she was gone, leaving Ethan standing alone in the empty penthouse, the weight of his words crashing down on him. For the first time in years, Ethan felt completely lost. He had built an empire, faced down competitors, and weathered countless storms, but nothing had prepared him for this. The silence of his penthouse was deafening, a stark contrast to the warmth and laughter Liam had brought into his life. Unable to bear the solitude, Ethan reached out to his best friend and confidant, Daniel. Daniel had been with him since the early days of Blackwood Enterprises, and if anyone could offer perspective, it was him. They met at a quiet bar, a place they often frequented when they needed to escape the pressures of their high-powered lives. Ethan nursed a glass of whiskey as he recounted the events of the evening, his voice heavy with regret. "I screwed up, didn't I?" Ethan said, staring into his drink. Daniel leaned back in his chair, studying his friend. "You did," he said bluntly. "But I get it. You're scared." Ethan looked up, his brow furrowed. "Scared of what?" "Of being vulnerable," Daniel replied. "You've spent your whole life building walls, Ethan. You don't let people in because you're afraid they'll hurt you. But this isn't a business deal. This is your son. And Sophia?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know how to fix this," he admitted. Daniel leaned forward, his tone firm but compassionate. "You start by being honest, not just with Sophia but with yourself. You're not going to win her trust by trying to control everything. You have to show her that you're willing to fight for her and Liam, not because you feel obligated, but because you love them." The word love hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. He had spent so long avoiding it, convincing himself that love was a weakness, but as he thought about Sophia's fiery spirit and Liam's infectious laughter, he realized that Daniel was right. He did love them, and he couldn't let his fear ruin the best thing that had ever happened to him. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew he had a long road ahead of him, but he was determined to make things right. He started by drafting a heartfelt letter to Sophia, pouring out his feelings in a way he had never done before. In the letter, he apologized for his words and actions, admitting that his suggestion of a paternity test had come from a place of fear, not mistrust. He told her how much he admired her strength and resilience, and how grateful he was for the way she had raised Liam. But most importantly, he told her that he wanted to be a part of their lives. Not out of obligation, but because he couldn't imagine a future without them. Ethan also took steps to address the external conflict. He met with his legal team to ensure that Sophia and Liam were protected from any further media scrutiny. He issued a public statement condemning the tabloid's actions and reaffirming his commitment to his family. When Sophia received Ethan's letter, she was hesitant to open it. Her heart was still raw from their argument, and she wasn't sure she was ready to hear what he had to say, but as she read his words, she felt her defenses begin to crumble. Ethan's vulnerability and sincerity were evident in every line. For the first time, she saw a man who was willing to confront his fears and fight for the people he loved. Sophia knew it wouldn't be easy to rebuild their trust, but she also knew that Ethan deserved a chance to prove himself. And deep down, she realized that she wanted to give him that chance, not just for Liam, but for herself. Do you think Ethan can win back Sophia's trust? Let us know in the comments. Ethan Blackwood had always been a man of action, but this time, action alone wouldn't be enough. He knew that words, no matter how heartfelt, wouldn't erase the pain he had caused Sophia. If he wanted to win her trust and prove his love, he needed to show her through his actions that he was ready to be the man she and Liam deserved. Ethan spent days planning the perfect way to make things right. He wanted to create a moment that would not only show Sophia how much he cared, but also demonstrate his commitment to their future as a family. After much thought, he decided on something deeply personal and meaningful, a private event at the park where they had first reconnected. On a crisp Saturday afternoon, Sophia received an invitation delivered to her door. It was handwritten, the elegant script unmistakably Ethan's. "Sophia, I know I've made mistakes, and I know I have a long way to go to earn your trust. But I want to show you how much you and Liam mean to me. Please meet me at the park at 4 p.m. Ethan. Sophia hesitated, her heart torn between hope and caution. She had seen glimpses of the man Ethan could be, but could she trust him to follow through? After a moment of deliberation, she decided to go. When she arrived at the park, she was greeted by a breathtaking sight. Ethan had transformed the space into a magical setting. Twinkling fairy lights hung from the trees, and a small table was set up with Liam's favorite snacks and toys. A large banner read, "For Liam and Sophia, my family, my heart." Ethan stood near the table, holding Liam's hand. He was dressed casually, a stark contrast to his usual polished suits, and his expression was one of nervous anticipation. "Sophia," he said as she approached, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Thank you for coming." Sophia glanced around, taking in the effort he had put into the gesture. "What is all this?" she asked, her voice soft. Ethan knelt down to Liam's level, looking the boy in the eye. "Liam, there's something I want to say to you," he began. "I haven't been in your life for very long, but I want you to know that I love you. You're my son, and I'm so proud of you." Liam's eyes lit up, and he threw his arms around Ethan's neck. "I love you too, Mr. Ethan," he said, his voice muffled against Ethan's shoulder. Ethan's throat tightened, but he managed to smile. "You can call me Dad if you want," he said. Liam pulled back, his face beaming. "Okay, Dad." Ethan stood, turning his attention to Sophia. "Sophia," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I know I've hurt you, and I know I've made mistakes. But I want you to know that I'm not the same man I was 3 years ago. You and Liam have changed me in ways I never thought possible." He took a deep breath, his eyes locking with hers. "I love you, Sophia. I love the way you've raised Liam, the way you've fought for him, and the way you've never given up, even when things were hard. I want to be the partner you deserve and the father Liam deserves. I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove myself to you." Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she listened to his words. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the vulnerability he had never shown before. Sophia took a step closer, her voice trembling. "Ethan, this is beautiful. And I can see how much you care about Liam. But trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight. I need time to believe that this isn't just a grand gesture, that you're really in this for the long haul." Ethan nodded, his expression earnest. "I understand, and I'm willing to wait as long as it takes. I don't want to rush you, Sophia. I just want you to know that I'm here and I'm not going anywhere." Sophia looked at Liam, who was happily playing with his new toys, and then back at Ethan. She could see the love in his eyes, not just for her but for their son. It was a side of him she hadn't seen before, and it gave her hope. "I want to believe you," she said finally, "and I want to give you a chance. But this has to be about more than just words and gestures. It has to be about showing up every day for Liam and for me." Ethan stepped closer, his voice steady. "I promise you, Sophia, I'll show up every day for the rest of my life." As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the park, Ethan and Sophia shared a quiet moment together. Liam had fallen asleep on a blanket, clutching his stuffed lion, and the two of them sat side by side, watching him. "Do you remember the night we met?" Sophia asked, a small smile playing on her lips. Ethan chuckled. "How could I forget? You were the only person in that room who didn't care about my title or my money. You saw me for who I really was." Sophia looked at him, her expression softening. "I think I'm starting to see that man again." Ethan reached for her hand, his touch gentle. "And I'm starting to see the woman who made me believe in love again." They sat in comfortable silence, the weight of the past slowly lifting as they looked toward the future. Over the next few weeks, Ethan made good on his promise. He showed up for Liam's soccer games, helped with bedtime stories, and even learned how to make pancakes, Liam's favorite breakfast. He also made an effort to support Sophia, encouraging her to pursue her career and offering to help with anything she needed. Sophia watched as Ethan transformed before her eyes. He wasn't just saying the right things, he was living them. Slowly but surely her walls began to come down. One evening, as they sat together on the couch after putting Liam to bed, Sophia turned to Ethan. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice hesitant. Ethan looked at her, his heart pounding. "About what?" "About us," she said, "and about giving us, a real chance." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sophia nodded, a small smile breaking across her face. "I'm sure." Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise I won't let you down." Do you believe in second chances? Share your thoughts below. Ethan Blackwood had finally found something worth fighting for: his family. But just as he was beginning to rebuild trust with Sophia and strengthen his bond with Liam, a storm was brewing. His rival, Victor Langston, had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, and now, with Ethan's personal life in the spotlight, he saw his chance. The scandal broke on a Monday morning. Ethan was in his office reviewing a proposal when his assistant burst in, her face pale. "Mr. Blackwood, you need to see this," she said, handing him a tablet. Ethan's stomach dropped as he read the headline splashed across the screen. "Billionaire CEO's secret love child, the scandal behind the Blackwood empire." The article was filled with invasive details about Sophia and Liam, painting Ethan as a reckless playboy who had abandoned his responsibilities. His phone buzzed incessantly with calls from reporters, and within hours paparazzi were camped outside Sophia's apartment. The media frenzy was relentless, and Sophia, overwhelmed by the sudden attention, called Ethan in tears. "They're everywhere," she said, her voice trembling. "Liam's scared, and I don't know what to do." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I'm coming over," he said firmly. When he arrived, the scene outside Sophia's building was chaotic. Cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions as Ethan pushed his way through the crowd. Inside, he found Sophia holding Liam, who was clutching his stuffed lion and crying softly. Ethan knelt down, his voice gentle. "Hey, buddy, it's gonna be okay, I promise." Liam looked up at him, his eyes filled with fear. "Why are they yelling, Dad?" Ethan's heart ached at the boy's question. "They're just being nosy," he said. "But I'm going to make sure they leave us alone." Ethan wasted no time. He called an emergency meeting with his legal team and public relations experts, determined to take control of the narrative. "I don't care what it takes," he said. "I want Sophia and Liam protected. No more cameras, no more harassment." He also issued a public statement, addressing the scandal head-on. Standing in front of a room full of reporters, he spoke with a calm but commanding presence. "Yes, Liam is my son," he said, his voice steady, "and I'm proud to be his father. The details of my personal life are not up for public debate, but I will say this. Sophia Bennett is one of the strongest, most incredible women I've ever met. She has raised Liam with love and grace, and I am honored to be a part of their lives." The statement was a turning point. Ethan's vulnerability and honesty won over the public, and the media frenzy began to die down. More importantly, it earned him something far more valuable: Sophia's trust. That evening, as the chaos subsided, Ethan returned to Sophia's apartment. She greeted him at the door, her expression a mix of exhaustion and gratitude. "You didn't have to do all that," she said softly. "Yes, I did," Ethan replied. "I told you I'd protect you and Liam, and I meant it." Sophia looked at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You didn't just protect us, Ethan. You stood up for us, for me. I've never had anyone do that before." Ethan stepped closer, his voice filled with emotion. "You and Liam are my family, Sophia. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Sophia's walls, which had taken years to build, finally came down. She reached for Ethan, pulling him into a tight embrace. "Thank you," she whispered. A week later, Ethan planned one final gesture to solidify their future together. He wanted to show Sophia not just with words, but with a promise to build a life together as a family. He chose a quiet, intimate setting, the park where they had first reconnected. It was sunset, and the golden light bathed the trees in a warm glow. Ethan had arranged for a small picnic, complete with Liam's favorite snacks and a bouquet of Sophia's favorite flowers. As they sat together, laughing and talking, Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. Liam was chasing fireflies nearby, his laughter echoing through the park. Ethan turned to Sophia, his heart pounding. "Sophia," he began, taking her hand. She looked at him, her expression curious. "What is it?" Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Opening it, he revealed a stunning diamond ring. "Sophia Bennett," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've shown me what it means to love and to be loved. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building a future together as a family. Will you marry me?" Sophia's breath caught in her throat as tears filled her eyes. She looked at Ethan, then at Liam, who had run over to see what was happening. "Mommy, say yes," Liam said, his face lighting up with excitement. Sophia laughed through her tears, nodding as she looked back at Ethan. "Yes," she said, her voice trembling. "Yes, I'll marry you." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, and they shared a passionate kiss, their love and commitment solidified. Liam cheered, throwing his arms around both of them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the three of them sat together, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. For the first time, Ethan felt truly complete. He had found not just success, but something far more valuable: a family to share it with. Do you believe in second chances? Share your thoughts below. The park was quiet, bathed in the soft golden light of a late summer afternoon. The gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze and the distant laughter of children created a serene backdrop. Ethan Blackwood sat on a picnic blanket, his arm draped protectively around Sophia, who leaned into him with a contented smile. Liam was a few feet away, chasing bubbles that floated lazily in the air. His laughter rang out, pure and joyful, as he tried to catch them with his tiny hands. Ethan watched him with a smile that was equal parts pride and wonder. "Look at him," Ethan said softly, his voice filled with emotion. "He's so full of life." Sophia followed his gaze, her heart swelling with love. "He's happy," she said, "and that's all I've ever wanted for him." Ethan turned to her, his expression serious but tender. "You've done an incredible job raising him, Sophia. I don't know how you did it on your own, but I'm so grateful you did." Sophia smiled, her eyes glistening. "I wasn't completely on my own," she said. "I had him, and now I have you." Ethan tightened his hold on her, pressing a kiss to her temple. "You'll never have to do it alone again," he promised. "We're a team now, a family." The past few months had been a whirlwind of change, but for the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of peace. He had stepped back from the relentless pace of his career, delegating more responsibilities to his trusted team so he could focus on what truly mattered: his family. Sophia had also found a new sense of balance. With Ethan's unwavering support, she had been able to grow her graphic design business, taking on projects she was passionate about, while still being present for Liam. As for Liam, he had blossomed in ways neither of them could have imagined. He adored spending time with Ethan, whether it was building Lego towers, reading bedtime stories, or learning how to ride a bike. The bond between father and son had grown stronger with each passing day, and it was clear that Liam felt safe, loved, and cherished. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, Liam ran back to the blanket, his cheeks flushed with excitement. "Mommy, Daddy, did you see how many bubbles I caught?" he exclaimed, holding up his hands as if to show them. Ethan chuckled, pulling Liam into his lap. "I saw, buddy, you're a bubble-catching champion." Liam beamed, snuggling into Ethan's chest. "Can we do this every weekend?" he asked, his voice hopeful. Sophia reached over to ruffle Liam's hair. "I think we can make that happen," she said, her smile widening as she looked at Ethan. Ethan nodded, his heart full. "Absolutely, this is what weekends are for. Spending time with the people you love." Liam yawned, his energy finally waning after a long day of play. Ethan and Sophia exchanged a knowing look, their smiles soft and full of unspoken understanding. As the three of them sat together, the world around them seemed to fade away. In that moment, it didn't matter how their story had begun or the challenges they had faced along the way. What mattered was the love they had found in each other. The kind of love that healed wounds, bridged divides, and gave them the strength to move forward together. Their journey was a testament to the power of forgiveness and second chances. It was a reminder that even in the face of mistakes and misunderstandings, love could prevail. As the first stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Ethan looked at Sophia and Liam, his heart swelling with gratitude. He had spent so much of his life chasing success, but now he realized that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars or accolades. It was measured in moments like this, moments of connection, laughter, and love. Sophia rested her head on Ethan's shoulder, her hand intertwined with his. "I never thought I'd have this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan kissed the top of her head, his voice steady and full of conviction. "You deserve this, Sophia, you and Liam both, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt that." Liam, half asleep in Ethan's arms, murmured, "I love you, Mommy, I love you, Daddy." Tears pricked Sophia's eyes as she looked at Ethan, her heart overflowing. "We love you too, sweetheart," she said, her voice thick with emotion. As the camera pans out, capturing the family silhouetted against the fading light, the narrator's voice comes in. Love has the power to heal, to transform, and to bring people together in ways they never imagined. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Love Scene Diaries for more stories of passion, redemption, and second chances. Until next time, keep believing in the magic of love.